Hello and welcome to this vlog on skill and capacity for speed and agility, where we're going to look at two athletes, Lauren and Marco, who show skill and capacity issues. In particular, we're going to analyze a sprint start and a 90-degree turn. We're going to start with the sprint start. We're going to see Lauren, who is limited by capacity, mainly due to her lack of lower body strength, while Marco is more limited by skills. We're going to start with Lauren. In the video, we can see Lauren performing a sprint start, in particular the first two strides. As it is quite evident from the clip, she can't maintain a forward lean, which is a desired component for the starting acceleration, as argued by Kugler and Janssen, to effectively apply force into the ground in the acceleration phase. Even when cued to stay low, she can't actually achieve a sufficient forward lean. In this frame, we can see her stance after the first stride, and now is quite upright, more similar to a maximum velocity position, which is not an efficient position from which to apply force into the ground. Lauren hasn't been consistent in her weight training and she is lacking lower body strength. As argued by Stone et al., there is a minimum requirement of strength to achieve proper form, so this can be a factor in an ability to achieve a sufficient forward lean. For this reason, the main intervention for improving her form would be to build strength first. To do so, we're going to insert lower body strength exercises, like goblet squats, different type of lunges as split and forward lunges, and pistol squats. Especially in the pistol squat, Lauren is showing lack of strength, as she can't achieve a deep enough position on both sides. Her thighs can't achieve a position parallel to the floor. Lauren has also some asymmetries between sides, as seen in this frame comparing the right and left sides. When on the right side, she can't bring the leg as low as on the left, and also her torso angle at the bottom is visibly different. Another exercise we inserted is a wall march to get her used to the more forward lean and build core and lower body strength in that position. We will then progress to a wall skip once she has built more strength, with the addition of strength in the ground to generate more force. Another exercise we inserted is a sled push in order to build strength in the lower body, especially glutes and calves, and improve her ability to generate force in the acceleration position. Another area that needs improvement is ankle stiffness. As seen in Bezodis and Trewartha, joint stiffness can play an important role in the acceleration phase, as a more rigid joint can transfer forces better into the ground. So I got Lauren to perform pogo jumps to improve this aspect as well. As seen in the clip, she needs some coaching, as she can't create much stiffness around the ankle. She is compensating for ankle stiffness by bending her knees to perform the movement. A complementary exercise can be calf raises to build more strength in her calves and help her create more stiffness around the ankle joint. After some training, I got Lauren to perform the sprint start again. She still can't achieve a sufficient forward lean and her torso raises too soon. This can be due to the delay in the appearance of changes in form following strength training, as seen in Stone et al., so probably more time will be necessary to notice changes in a sprint form. Next, we're going to move on to Marco. In the clip, Marco is performing the sprint start and is starting from a higher position than Lauren. In his sprint start, we can see that he is raising too soon from the forward lean, like Lauren. He doesn't achieve proper leg extension, and his front shin is not quite parallel to the back leg. Unlike Lauren, Marco has been training more consistently with his basketball team, even if he hasn't been doing much strength training in the last few months, so his main limitation will probably be skill related. As mentioned before, there are some different flows in Marco forms, but do not overload him with information. We'll focus on one or two at a time. We're going to start by addressing his forward lean. In the clip, Marco is performing the wall march. In this case, the drill should have Marco develop better feeling in the forward lean position. The natural progression would be a wall skip, where he's going to hit the ground more aggressively. The main coaching points for Marco will be to stay low, maintain a straight line from head to heel, attack the ground behind, and keep toes up to create more lower leg stiffness when striking the ground. To work on this last aspect, I also got Marco to perform pogo hops, as well to teach him to create more ankle stiffness when striking the ground. In this frame, comparing Marco and Lauren pogo hops, we can notice that Marco can maintain straight legs while generating stiffness around the ankles. I then got Marco to perform a sprint start again while cueing him to stay down and kick the ground. He can then achieve a slightly more forward lean, but is not achieving full back leg extension, as in the picture comparing the two frames. The changes are not massive, as he will need more time to get used to the right form, and also probably build some more strength. The next step for him would be to work on back leg extension, improve his front shin angle to keep him more parallel to the back leg, and also work on his arm swing. To summarize the results for the sprint start, we saw Lauren that was limited from strength, The training for her will be focused on weight training to build an important strength base before moving on to more skill training. Due to the lag time for strength gains, this will require some time to show improvements. Marco was limited from skill, and in fact, he showed some small improvements. Nonetheless, he will need some more time to achieve better form and consolidate it. There are also some other areas need improvement, but it is better not to overload Marco with information. So moving forward, we will focus on 1 or 2 issues at a time, addressing the next one once we had shown some level of proficiencies in the firmer ones. Next, we're to move on to a 90-degree cut. We're going to see Lauren and Marco again, and they will show some capacity and skill limitations respectively. Again, we're going to start with Lauren. In the clip, we can see Lauren executing a 90-degree cut, but from the front and side view. Wyatt et al. Shows a tendency of athletes to lower the center of mass before performing a cut maneuver, which is a more efficient position from which to perform the movement. So we want her to get lower before executing the cut, but she can't do so even when instructing to get low. She also doesn't feel strong and stable at the ankle. As mentioned before, she's lacking lower body strength, so the main course of action will be to execute some lower body strength exercises. In addition to the ones mentioned during the sprint start, in this case we're going to also add a side lunge to train a different plane of motion to reflect the three-dimensional aspect of the side cut, and also work on adductor and abductor musculature. The weight in the goblet position will help her build some core strength and teach her to keep her chest up. To address her instability, we inserted some pogo hops again, aiming at building the stiffness and strength around the ankle. I also got Lauren to perform a drop into a ready position, both from a standing stance and from running, to teach her how to get low before the cut. Lauren then performed the 90-degree cut again. Like before, she doesn't show major improvements. She can't lower her center of mass, and she can't perform the movement in a quick manner. As for the sprint start, this lack of improvements can be due to the delay of strength gains on impacting movement form. Moving on to Marco, we can see him performing the 90-degree cut. Always referring to Wyatt et al., it would be more effective for Marco to lower his center of mass prior to planting his foot, so he will be more reactive in a competitive scenario, and he would also be able to apply force into the ground more effectively. As suggested by Jeffrey, to improve proficiency, it can be useful to split the 90-degree cut in different parts, initiations, transition, and actualization movements, and then link them together. We then proceeded on working on different movements and transitions positions. Marco first performed a drop into the ready position from a standing starting stance. We then progressed to getting in the ready stance from running, always focusing on getting low prior to the cut. Finally, he performed the full movement. Just before the planting of the outside foot, I gave him the cue to stay low. In this picture, we can see that he's getting lower and in a better position to execute the movement. In this frame, we can compare the two positions from the front, and he's dropping slightly lower. Instead, in this comparison from the side, we can appreciate his more balanced position. Marco is not leaning too far back when decelerating, which can allow him to be more ready for subsequent movements in a competitive situation. This shift more towards the ball of the foot can allow Marco to change direction quicker when reacting to a stimulus. Marco is a basketball player, so it would be important for him to also transition to a side shuffle after the cut to get quicker into a defensive position. As suggested by Homberg, for sport athletes where there is an important reaction component, it can be useful to add a stimulus the player has to react to while performing the movement. This can help the players to train the movement in a more chaotic environment, which resembles somewhat more actual matches. For Marco, then, the idea is to add a specific stimulus he has to react to when performing the 90-degree cut, which can be simply starting by saying right or left and then him moving accordingly, up to more complicated variations. To summarize the 90-degree cut analysis, Lauren showed a strength deficit, which didn't allow her to perform the cut in an efficient manner. This lack of strength will take some time to be corrected. Marco instead showed better form when instructed with some cues. However, he still needs more repetitions to automatize the movement. In this vlog, we analyzed two different movements, a sprint start and a 90-degree cut, performed by two athletes that were lacking skill and capacity, and we can extrapolate some key topics. First, we started in regard to capacity issues. When strength is lacking, more time is necessary to see improvement to the delay of strength gains to impact on form. It is also possible to divide the whole movement in different parts and then link them together. This can give the practitioner the option to isolate specific position or movement where he feels the athlete is lacking and improve on that aspect before moving on to address the next biggest flaw. In case of team sport, there is a great component of reaction in response to stimuli, on top of all the sport skill capacity, so it can be useful to add some reaction drill in the training process.